you really have to take care. And here, I actually purposely loaded an AP round for that. It was over without getting spotted, but actually see the Hellcat here, and I'm actually really glad that he poked forward. All right, guys, it's War Room here, and I know I haven't been posting in a while, but I have two great replays today. I'm going to showcase you in my recent sessions in the KV-2. And I've been trying to mark this tank for a while, and I got up to about, I think it was like 82%, and then I had a slew of really bad games where I did like one shot of damage and died. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about kind of my thinking and how I essentially play this tank. And one of the biggest things that I want to point out with this tank, obviously, is its notoriously long reload. Right? Based on my setup, I have a 19 point something second reload, and I'll also show you my equipment setup later on as well, so be sure to stick around for that. But I have the first game I'm going to showcase you guys is this game, a top tier game where there's 6 tier 6s on either side and the rest are tier 5. So obviously in these situations, the thing that I found is in order to get a 2 mark, you need to average about 1400 damage in your past 100 games, or at least that's what the stats say in the garage. I'll show you that at the end as well. And so what I found is that being top tier actually can sometimes be a detriment because there's not as much HP on the field. As you can see here, there's only 9,000 damage to be had in this game. And so especially in those games, a lot of those games where sometimes we would win and I would get 0 damage because I was, too far away from the action. So really, in order to do extremely well in this tank, I mean, I can't even imagine trying to 3 mark this tank. I think the average damage you need to have is like 1800, which is insane. But you really have to have really good awareness of the game. So here, just slowly, what I found is that the turret dispersion on this tank is actually pretty poor. So as long as you keep the turret aimed at the target and you just move your hull, forwards and backwards, you can see that the bloom doesn't actually bloom that much. And so I'm able to minimize or reduce the amount of aiming that I need to do in order to hit my targets. And this is all about awareness and trying to predict essentially where the enemies are going to be and trying to pre-aim. That's I guess my biggest advice. So luckily we are up to 1,000 damage. I think we've shot 3 shots. One of them missed, and then we had a really nice clutch shot on that KV-1, and then Excelsior, and then also that really great shot on that P43 Biz. And so you can expect to, on average, to do about 300 damage if you don't penetrate. And we can see here that I kind of can see that the KV-1 is trying to push here, so I'm gonna, take my time here, aim for that weak bar on the top, and you can see that it was slightly green right before I shot. Right, so a lot of the times, because you have such a long reload, you sometimes in those situations where you definitely can't afford to miss, or in those situations where that you're going to be vulnerable, you want to take the time in and aim for those weak spots, because that could be the difference between doing, if I just clutch shot at him, I probably would have hit him and done damage, but I wouldn't know where I was going to hit him. Was I going to hit him in the lower plate? Was I going to hit him in the turret? Right? And the turret, the turret on the KV-1 has a lot of spaced armor, so a lot of that would be absorbed, and he definitely would not have been one-shotted like he was. So picking your time to aim and picking your times not to aim is also important. See here, I decide not to aim because I know that my teammates are relatively close to me, so I can pull back around this corner and I can know I'm going to be safe. And I'd rather take that clutch shot and potentially miss and not take any damage in return, right? And that's another really important thing I would recommend with this tank, is managing your HP. Although you do have 960, you only have 960. And the arties at this tier, especially the M44, do like 200 damage to you every shot. And so if you think about it, that's like 5 shots and you're dead, right? And there are a lot of TDs that do 240 as well. So you really have to take care. And here, I actually purposely loaded an AP round for that T1 heavy. I thought he was going to push forward. And I know I can do a pretty good job at penetrating him. I generally don't really fire a lot of AP rounds in this tank. The OI, the Japanese tier 6, is actually better at firing AP. It has higher penetration. And so in that tank, I would recommend firing more AP. Whereas this tank, I would recommend firing more HE. Is how I would describe the two tanks. The OI definitely has way more armor, right? But it's much larger and has I think it has slightly worse gun stats. So that's kind of the trade-off that you get. Both are extremely fun to play. I think the KV-2 does better in higher tier situations. When in those situations where you find yourself in a tier 8 game. And I'll also showcase another game that I played that was a tier 8 game. So here I was going to hold my shot for the VK because he has more HP. He's at 781. So I wanted another important thing about marking in general is you need to increase your W8. You need to increase your damage. And you also need to increase your assistance damage, right? So I wanted to potentially hit that VK. And so now I'm trying to predict where this VK is going, but looks like our A43 is hitting him in the back, and I noticed that he's coming around this way. So I'm waiting. I notice, you can see that teal, I'm trying to stay out of the proxy range so that the VK doesn't know I'm here. And now I see that this SU is shooting at our ally there. And I take the opportunity to take him out. The reason why I didn't hold my shot there is because I'm on this side of the map and then the SU is on that side of the map. So I want to be able to get that damage. Whereas I know he's like right here, so I can get this damage. I know I'm pretty much guaranteed to get this damage. And I kind of made a mistake there. I should not have poked out there and gotten spotted. See, now he's gonna run. And if I hadn't gotten myself spotted and I had waited until I was fully reloaded, I could have poked around that corner and shot him there. And instead I have to wait here and I pray that I hit him, and luckily I do, and get a really nice penetration into the back of his turret there. And we're already up to 3,700 damage, which is already an incredible result. Right now I'm looking at my mark of excellence percentage right here, and I see that to get 85% I need I think it was like 3,500. So I literally just got the 2 mark just now, or just then. So now I'm kind of more relaxed in this situation, and I kind of want to get a little bit more damage. I kind of want to get that 4,000 damage and predict that that A43 was rushing him and that he was gonna push back and get that 4,000 damage mark. And that's pretty much all that happens at the end of this game. A43 chases down this artillery, and we ended up winning. So let's take a look at the end plates. Actually, let's take a look at the second replay. All right, guys, replay number 2 here, and this is a bottom tier game. We're in a tier 8 game with 4 tier 8s, 3 tier 7s, and the rest tier 6s. And on this map, the majority of the heavy tank fighting happens down here. And one thing that the KV-2 excels at is that that poke around the corner, take a shot, and then pull back around. I kind of demonstrated a little bit of that in the first replay, but in this replay, we're going to be doing a lot of that. And because of the long reload on this tank, you can kind of take advantage of the fact that you have a high alpha damage. And even if you don't penetrate, you'll still do like 200, 300 damage, and you'll also do a lot of module damage. And so oftentimes you like the KV-2 is really not the tank that's going to be pushing through. Rather, it's the opposite. The enemies are pushing onto you, right? Which ultimately helps this tank be a really good a defensive tank. And so you're going to see a little bit of that in this game. And like I said earlier, I prefer a little bit sometimes in this tank to actually be top tier, because look at how much the HP pool is in this game. An additional 4,000 damage, which really helps with getting marks of excellence and just doing or having higher damage games in general. Additionally, typically speaking, the higher tier games are a little bit longer games and are a little bit more balanced, but you could make the argument that's not as balanced because certain players have OP tanks at tier 8 and whatnot, so won't get into that. But typically they're longer games, and so because the reload is so long, you want the games to be really long, and yeah, you can do that. One shot an equal tier tank for 700 damage, and I did not load AP, I loaded HE there. So that's really why this tank is so devastating. And here I actually do a really cool thing. I decide to shoot below the tank, because I know most tanks don't have a lot of armor, and I do 400 damage. Right, and you can actually do this with a lot of tanks, because most tanks only have like 10, 20, 30 millimeters of armor below the tank. And that sometimes can be better than even shooting at the turret, right? Because the only thing that this Basante is showing is his turret. He's doing a really good job of saying hold down, but unfortunately, that's, I guess, like the weakness of playing hold down behind another tank is because the tank is not fully covering the bottom of your tank. And here, unfortunately, I do not get a penetrating shot on the Digger Max. I thought I was gonna penetrate him, seeing as that was mostly green actually, but I think it must have strayed and hit his gun or something like that. So, and it looks like artillery, that Burt actually hit us there, so have to be a little bit careful there. Look at that. We haven't really taken much damage, or we've only taken 2 shots. We've only received 2 shots, and we're already down to half HP. That's what can happen with this tank. It just, tier 6 heavies in general just don't have that much HP. And so here, the E8 is 1 shot, but it's not really worth it for me to take 100 damage from him. I think is alpha 100, 110 maybe, and only do like 50 damage or something. So I'm gonna hold my HP, and I notice that the SU and the Projetta are behind me, and so I wait, see if I can get the pen, because I know if I hit him in the tracks, I'm not gonna be able to penetrate him. So get a nice 700 or 372. I wish it was 700, because someone actually hits him right before I do. And now we were able to claw this game back. We were leading for a little bit, and then we were losing by a bit as well. And I think unfortunately our heavies just kind of take a really poor approach lane. I think that's what kind of happened here. They kind of just get stuck here and just kind of get farmed, because they're pretty healthy right now, right? The Emil is on 300, and now he's on 50. The KV-5 is like pretty healthy too. And the 703 actually on the MA team actually decided to go to the north, which is a very peculiar strategy. I guess it works out for them in the end. No spoilers. So here I debate on whether I want to push on this Tiger P, because I think that he's just gonna come bum rush our T25/2. And like I mentioned before, a lot of the situations the problem with this tank is it can't really push forward by itself, because if you do, enemies know that you have a really long reload. And so I've died so many times where I will go forward, kill a tank, even go forward and one-shot a tank, and then his friend, who's like in a very fast and high DPM, fast-firing like light tank, will just come around and just farm me for days. And there I kind of make a mistake of getting spotted there, because now the Super Hellcat knows that I'm here, as well as the 703. And the 703, interesting that he just chooses to cap here. I guess it was a good decision. Our KV-5 is very low. He's only on 200 damage, and I think maybe this area I could have done better. I potentially could have pushed forward with this KV-5 to help reset. But I feel like most cases out of 10, I mean, I would be in the same situation as the KV-5, and I have less armor than he does. And I had a sliver of a shot and actually get spotted there, which is another reason why I was my thought process of staying here was I thought that the Super Hellcat was going to come around behind the KV-5 and try to shoot him and kill him because he's a one-shot. And so I think that was a mistake of getting spotted here. So I guess I'm in the view range of the 703. I think for the M44, I'm not sure if he could have pushed down here so he could just lob shells over without getting spotted, but actually see the Hellcat here, and I'm actually really glad that he poked forward because I was able to one-shot him and save this game from being just a mediocre game. But yeah, this is another really great result that I had in this tank, and I wanted to showcase you some bottom tier gameplay and showcase that you can do well in either situation. So let's take a look at the post-game stats. All right, guys, here's the first game. This is actually our second class.
What the hell did you just say?
I mean, not second class, our second Mark of Excellence game. And we got an ace tanker. I think this is actually our first or second ace in this tank. It's actually quite difficult to ace this tank because people are just having crazy results. High caliber and top gun for our 4,009 damage for 7 kills and 1,500 base experience. Pretty much carried our team there. Enemies probably most times out of 10 would have won this game. 11 shots fired. 10 direct hits and 6 penetrations. That 6 penetrations is very key in being able to get such high damage results. And like I said, most of the times I just fire HE, and in certain occasions when you know that you're gonna poke forward, you're gonna be fighting against lightly armored heavies and stuff like that. And generally I like to do that when I know I can aim in, or if I know it's close quarter, so I know I'm gonna hit, right? Because AP you have to penetrate in order to do that, in order to do damage. Whereas HE, you can just splash anywhere and you'll do damage. So that's another important consideration. Yeah, armor is not very good. And this was an 8-minute game, and we made a little bit of credits, which is actually surprising. I guess not surprising because you're firing HE and you do a lot of damage, but I did fire, I think I fired 1 premium AP round. Yeah. So that was the first game. Second game was also an ace. So I guess this was my first ace, probably. High caliber, 3,500, top on the team in damage. Right, like the KV-5 really didn't do much. He just kind of was there, prevented the enemies from pushing through. The object, again, like if you're in a heavy going north, not really a good play. Progetto did really well. He pushed through the middle, right? That's generally what I like to do as well in my top tier mediums and faster heavies. The middle is just so important on that map. You can pretty much control and dictate the game from that position. It's pretty much is borderline. I think it is OP, that position. But you can access that position from both sides, so it's not really that OP. But in the right tank, in the right hands, you can really abuse that position. 8 shots fired, 5 direct hits, 3 penetrations. And this was a 7-minute game. And we also made credits. So KV-2 is not a bad credit maker. So yeah, and now I'm going to show you my crew loadout as well as my equipment setup. All right, guys, we're in the garage here. And this is my crew setup. I have 3 skills, or almost 3 skills, I guess. 2 skills and then training on my 3rd skill. I have Brothers in Arms, which is really important because pretty much everything that you're doing here is to help improve the gun handling, right? Sixth Sense, obviously, that's probably the most important perk that you need in this game. I'm really baffled at why Wargaming don't have that as a default for everyone. Seeing as new players have the least amount of experience, so they most likely to need the perks to help them play against players that are more experienced with better crews who like mostly have Sixth Sense. Like, okay.
Ha! Gay!
I have Snapshot on my gunner, which helps accuracy during turret rotation. Another gun perk that you really want. Driving perk, Smooth Ride, improves accuracy while shooting on the move. Really important. That's like your movement dispersion. And then Clutch Braking, which increases your traverse speed. This tank, as you could see, like turns like a boat. So that's another really important skill that you need on this tank. Situational Awareness to increase the view range. Even with that, my view range is only 368. You're not really going to be spotting for yourself, and you're going to get outspotted by pretty much every medium at your tier, below you, pretty much everybody. And you have no camo in this tank. It's a heavy. Like, look at how tall this tank is. You're not gonna. I've had situations where I literally poked into a bush and my entire tank was covered. And I thought I wasn't spotted. Literally, I didn't. My Sixth Sense didn't even go off, and I was already dead. Like, this tank is. You should not be doing that. I've learned that the hard way. Loader, safe stowage, and then repairs, and then my other loader I just did repairs and then camo, just because there's no other skills. I think you could maybe swap out for one of these, like Intuition or Adrenaline Rush. They might be useful just because of how long the reload is, but I'm just too lazy to reset that. And having repairs and camo is not a bad thing. So that's my crew setup. You can still play this tank without that setup. I would just recommend doing all repairs first. Then once you get to past 100, I think it's like 120 or something, you can reset so that you can get your commander to get Sixth Sense. And in the meantime, you can use these directives to get Sixth Sense. Right? I have 36 of these. I've already been using a lot of those. But I just wouldn't pay bonds for those. And I've been using like the directive for vents just because I have so many of these. But like Normally I just wouldn't play with that. It only adds like 1% anyways. I just run small repair kit, small med kit, and then automatic fire extinguisher. And then this is the important thing, and probably what you came here for. I put vents actually on this spot, just because that's the only option. I was about to say that you could put your improved rotation mechanism there, but you can't. So in your survivability slot, just put improved vents. It gives you an additional 1% instead of 5%. You have 6%, and increase the crew skills. And then obviously gun rammer, because the reload is like, I think it's like 24 seconds or something like that, standard base. So you really need to increase your DPM as much as possible, especially on such a long reload. I think I've heard people try like enhanced gun laying drive or improved aiming, just because like you could make the argument that if you don't hit the tank, you're not going to be increasing your DPM. But I've had a lot of success with this setup. And then improved rotation mechanism. This is really, really, really important, since you can't mount vertical stabilizers. Definitely, this piece of equipment is game changing for so many tanks. That it's really, I think this is like the new standard instead of vertical stabilizers, especially for tanks that can't mount vertical stabilizers, that increase vehicle traverse speed and turret traverse speed. That's critical for such a large heavy. That mobility is probably it is the biggest weakness of this tank, is the mobility, and then maybe the view range. But it's not designed to be a light tank, or it's to be overpowered, right? So have to have some balancing mechanics. And then I just go 30 high explosive and then 6 premium AP rounds. The reason why I fire premium is because I'm waiting for 20 seconds to reload. I'm okay with spending, 4,000 more credits to penetrate with, even though it's only like 26, I'd rather maximize my ability to pen, especially if I'm going to take 20 seconds to reload. If it was like, something like a KV-1 or whatever, like I wouldn't, but just because it's KV-2, might as well go all out, right? So that's kind of my setup for this tank. Let me know your thoughts on the KV-2, and also like let me know what you want to see in the future, what kind of videos you want to see. I've been this was a big goal of mine to get this 2 marks on this tank, just because me and my friends have been starting to play a little bit more, and we always seem to want to play KV-2. So yeah, I kind of wanted to see if I can get some good results in this tank, and hopefully I was able to give you some tips and tricks on how to improve. And please like, comment, and subscribe. We're out.